Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April Pontiac Planning Commission meeting. If you are planning on speaking at any of the items tonight, please sign in at the sign-up sheet in the back of the room. With that, we can go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Commissioner McGinnis?
Present.
Commissioner Shepard?
Present.
Commissioner Henley?
Present.
Commissioner Northcross?
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right. Do we have any official communications from staff?
I have nothing at this time.
Ms. Duvall has asked to be excused. She was unable to make it tonight. And then also Ms. Parlov, who was previously chair of the Planning Commission, has resigned from Planning Commission. And so right now there's just 6 members. We will be working with the administration to open up positions and try to fill that. In the interim, Mr. Henley, as vice chair, will be chairing the meeting tonight, but we will have a vote later tonight on chair and vice chair.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have any amendments to the agenda this evening?
I can look for it in a second.
No amendments.
All right. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any amendments or edits to the meeting minutes from the March meeting?
We may need to vote. Does this body usually vote to adopt the agenda?
Yes.
I move to approve this evening's agenda.
Thank you. Support. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right. Now we can move on to the minutes. Any edits to the March meeting minutes?
I move to approve the March 5th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we have no special presentations this evening, so that means we can go into our first item, which is public hearing, which is a zoning map amendment 25-001 for 11 Mohawk Street. We will, for all of our items this evening, we're going to be doing things just slightly different procedure-wise. We're going to be getting our presentation from staff, followed by immediate comments from our applicants, and then all of our questions will be addressed after the applicant has had the chance to speak. So with that, we can start our first presentation.
Real quick, Sam, is the clicker for the PowerPoint up there?
I was wondering what this is too.
I thought you were going to throw it to him.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is zoning map amendment, ZMA 25-001. Applicant is AMG Visionaries Holding LLC. Address is 11 Mohawk, and the request is to rezone from R1 to R2. Staff recommends Planning Commission recommend approval. This is the process. Obviously, we're April the 2nd, so we're at Planning Commission right now. Now, this is a zoning map, so where the star is located, that's where the parcel in question is. As you can see, the parcel is located within an R1 district, but south of that along Huron Street, running roughly to, let's say, halfway to Dakota, is R2 districts. And then we have C1 districts, sort of in the salmon color, that are Huron and Telegraph, and the, let's call it the right side of Huron, flanking Dakota Street. You can see an R2 district on the block adjacent to Dakota, as well as there are R2 and R3 districts within the neighborhood also to the north. The highlighted area is the location of the parcel. This is a picture of the parcel with the structure on it. Overview and background. This parcel, like many parcels in the area, is zoned R1, one family dwelling. The parcel is developed with a non-conforming duplex structure. The 2014 Master Plan's future land use map shows this area as traditional neighborhood residential district. The structure was constructed in 1930. The property was previously listed as a duplex in city records and transitioned to a single-family dwelling prior to 2017. At the time of purchase, the property was utilized as a duplex structure. Currently, there are 4 duplex structures in the neighborhood on land zoned R1 and 1 duplex structure found on land zone C1. Location zoning. The property is zoned R1. The property abuts land zoned R2 to the southwest, and the neighborhood consists of parcels zoned C1, R1, R2, and R3. If this rezoning were approved, the duplex would be a conforming use within a R2 district and could continue as a duplex structure. The applicant has provided no conditions. This is a slide of R1 district, what is permitted by right, as well as what is needed for a special exemption, so you can see those types of uses right there. Now this is the R2 slide. So this shows you what uses are permitted by right in the R2 district, as well as permitted by special exemption. And as you can see, I highlighted that two-family dwelling is a by right use in an R2 district. Neighborhood. The neighborhood consists of single-family dwellings with duplex and townhouse structures located on the outer edges of the neighborhood. Duplex structures within R2 districts are primarily located on West Huron between Osceola Drive and roughly Dakota Street, and block-long R2 districts on the eastern flank of the neighborhood. Existing duplex structures within R1 districts are located on the outer edges of the neighborhood, similar to the R2 districts. R3 districts exist within the neighborhood's eastern flank, adjacent to R2 and R1 districts. C1 districts with a duplex structure and commercial buildings exist on the West Huron Street frontage areas and internal to the neighborhood on portions of Osceola Street. So this map shows you the location of existing duplex structures in R1 districts. As you can see, the red star is the location of the subject parcel, and the other 3 stars, then I guess the light gray ones, or the dark gray ones rather, they're the existing duplex structures in the R1. So these are the basic standards of approval that you're familiar with. I'm just going to forward ahead to the analysis. The future land use map classifies this parcel as traditional neighborhood residential district. This zoning district is intended to plan for traditional patterns of urban neighborhoods and are meant to be built on human scale to prioritize people. And approval of this rezoning will not be a deviation from the plan. The property does not have any known natural features that require protection. The current zoning designation would only permit single-family homes by right and some community uses by special exemption. The structure is configured as a duplex and adjacent to other duplex-type residences. The R2 zoning classification is compatible with the subject parcel's general vicinity. Adjacent parcels are zoned R2, and existing non-conforming duplex structures are located within the surrounding R1 district. The city's utilities and services are sufficient to accommodate the existing site. Mohawk Road is designated as a residential street well suited to accommodate a residential type of traffic volumes. The applicant requests the parcel to be rezoned. The request is reasonable and will not be disruptive to adjacent properties, since this property has been used as a duplex type structure in the past and currently. The applicant worked with city staff to determine the appropriate zoning district for the existing use to continue as a duplex. Based on the master plan, this area is designated again as traditional neighborhood residential district. And the current zoning does consist of R2 districts abutting the subject site to the south and I say east, but it's actually west. A duplex use is compatible with the proposed zoning district. This change will not negatively impact the surrounding uses, since duplex structures are not uncommon land use within the neighborhood. The R2 family district is a common residential zoning district within the entire neighborhood. Therefore, this rezoning will not create an isolated zone. And staff recommends, Planning Commission recommend approval. So my presentation is ended.
All right, thank you very much. And before we go through with questions, could we have our applicant please approach the podium? And if you press the button on the, oh, there we go.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
I think he pretty much hit it all. The property was purchased with the understanding that it was a duplex. When we went to file for the rental registration, we found out that it was not. And that's when we took steps to only put one family in there as of right now. So it is not being used as a duplex as of now until we get this approved.
Okay.
So,
With that, Commissioner McGinnis, do you have any questions for either the staff or the applicant?
To the applicant, when did you purchase the property?
I believe it was purchased in November.
Okay. And your single-use tenant at the moment, what's the parking circumstances?
So right behind the house, and I did bring some pictures, there is where there used to be a garage. There is open space there for at least 6 cars and the long driveway.
Is there a concrete or asphalt base where there was one, say, garage, or is it sod, soil?
Nope, it is asphalt.
Okay.
Yep.
And if I could add, the duplex requirement for 2 units would be 4 spaces.
And there's plenty.
Okay, those were my immediate questions. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Shepard. No questions. Commissioner Northcross.
No questions.
And I just have some questions for staff to clarify some of the points in the presentation. Now, how long has this building been used as a duplex historically?
So I believe Paul will be able to answer your questions.
Sure. We went through city records and it indicated that, based on our presentation here, I can go back to the slide. Roughly, the property was constructed in 1930. And let me go back here. Oh, there we are. So the property was previously used or listed as a duplex in city records and transitioned to a single-family dwelling prior to 2017. Okay, so we know that. And like the applicant indicated here, that when they purchased the property, it was sold to them that it was a duplex type structure. So those are the city records that we have for that type of land use.
So as far as we know, it was used as a duplex as far back as 1930.
Possibly. We don't really have that record, but I mean, when you get down to it, we do know that we looked at city records, and roughly, I think it was around 2015 or 2012 that it was listed as a duplex structure.
And Chair Henley, if I could add, the city actually was in attendance, like on the site when there was the conversion taking place, roughly about 2 years ago. The code enforcement manager was there, there was a ticketing process, and then the owner sold the property not long thereafter. So what would happen is this rezoning is going forward through Planning Commission, City Council. There was not a building permit to convert this, and then the applicant tonight will have to get a building permit to officially use it as a duplex. If this rezoning is approved, there will probably need to be some modifications to make sure it's up to building code, safety code, fire code, things like that. That was unfortunately never completed because this work was, again, originally done by an old owner without any permits. Thank you.
And that kind of touches on my next question, which I could just use a little clarification on. In 2017, when it transitioned to a single-family home, did the use itself actually change, or was that just a change in designation by the city made an error?
Sure. We looked at the code enforcement records, and there was an indication that in 2017, the property was listed as single family.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, that's all I have. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any final questions right now? Yes.
For uses permitted in the R2 district by right or by special exception, focusing on by right, it could be a one-family home, it could be a two-family home, and I see daycare center. For daycare center, is there a limit on how many children in our city's ordinance? I know other municipalities have that limit.
Yes, I believe there are, and I think we're going to look that up really quick.
Because obviously they're
yeah.
showing daycare, and then there's a different designation of child care center.
Yep, you're correct on
Child care
that,
center
yeah.
would require a special exception approval by the city of Pontiac, by this planning commission. We just haven't really seen that come before this planning commission, so I want to know, and I want the neighborhood to know what that would mean as well. And similarly, community center building, that is not asterisked. I think that just means that it could be in an R2 zone, a community center could exist, but I don't think this property would be eligible.
Yeah, and as a child care center, you were required in our code to have a 1,200 square foot play area. That's going to be impossible, so we're unlikely to see that here without a redevelopment of some sort.
Okay. And if it helps, so for the definition of childcare center and daycare center, it specifies a facility receiving one or more preschool or school-age child for care periods of less than 24 hours a day.
So one or more is daycare.
Is daycare and childcare.
What is the distinction between daycare and childcare? And if you don't know today, that's okay, but I think
Yeah.
I'd benefit from having that.
I really don't know. I don't even know if our ordinance does distinguish. The definition is combined for both of them.
Okay. It might just be a long-term thing we want to clean up, because I know other municipalities, they designate like where it would be appropriate to have 6 or less.
Yes, we would want to.
Children.
We want to line up with the state requirements.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it for now.
Okay. Commissioner Northcross, did you have any questions? Okay. Okay, so as this is a public hearing, if you want to speak on this topic specifically, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Please approach the podium, state your name and your address.
Isn't it 3?
It's whatever I want.
Okay.
And before you speak, if you haven't signed in at the back of the room, please do so. And with that, we will open up the public hearing. Oh, please press the button on the right. That'll turn on the microphone.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I'm Carol Rogers, and I live on a corner lot at 59 Mohawk, which is bordering Genesee. And across the street, I know this isn't germane to this, but is 54 Mohawk with an illegal fence that has been illegal for years, which is a site problem. And I was wondering whether that could be rectified. But talking about 11 Mohawk, since it's been used illegally probably as a 2-family, it has had more code violations and people from the building department giving tickets. That end of the street seems to have a problem, as probably right across the street has been standing basketball stand, and it's been there, and it creates a traffic problem because there's parking on only one side of the street down where all these duplexes are. So I'm concerned about the precedence of turning this from a 1-family to a 2-family. If you stand on my street in a 1-block area, I see 6 houses that can be turned into 2 families. When you start a precedence, legally, of course, lawyers come and say, oh, you've done this before, now you can do it for these other houses. And we are a 1-family residential area. There's been, numerous problems, as I said, to this building. And, parking, she says there's parking, but the tenants don't believe in parking where they should park. And the people in the duplexes across the street.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Okay, all right.
Good evening, Council. My name is Darlene Clark, 506 Nebraska. There's so many questions that needs to be answered before this can be converted into R2. For the simple fact is that this home, as she stated, that area has always been homes. Now, the problem was not with the city of Pontiac, it's because she was sold something that was told it was a duplex. It has to do with the legal rights that she has. And to bring it to the city of Pontiac to open it up to a R2 is actually an insult to the neighborhood in itself. Also, when you start opening up these historical homes, and you want to divide them up into a R2, once you gave them an R1, you're opening up for rental property. Pontiac is over rented now. If she was living in the home or they were living in the home themselves, logically it still wouldn't make sense to even turn it into a R2. It still should stay at R1. Now, if the deed was incorrect to what it was, also, once again, that's a legal problem, not the city of Pontiac's problem. I suggest, as a resident of Pontiac, not to take that responsibility on and let her consult with a lawyer in order to get whatever problem she was sold to get it straightened out. But right at this point, being an R2 is a residential neighborhood, it should stay that way. In 2017, you didn't say this place is a daycare or it went to a daycare or she wants to turn it into a daycare. I don't know. The question is, I don't know, okay? But the word daycare was used. Again, is she's going to use this for what? Is this going to be an income where she rent it out? Because once again, you're coming into more problems with renters coming into the neighborhood. We as residents of Pontiac, we have rights to say what we really want. It's up. Sorry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Mike Feekart. I live down the street here from Carroll. I'm at 43 Mohawk. And the biggest thing that I have the issue with would be the parking. I mean, my aunt and uncle over on Delaware Street had an R2 house years and years ago, but that's neither here nor there. On our street, there's already an amazing amount of parking illegally up along the end of the street, right there by Huron. And I'm assuming, or I'm afraid that this would just contribute to that problem, as a lot of folks up there do not like to park in the driveways or whatever. They're always parking on the street. So, and as far as being a residential street, we have, especially when there's an accident up at Telegraph in Huron, our street is used. They come down Genesee, turn on Mohawk, trying to think that they're going to get around the accident problem, find out they're not, so they turn around and race back. So, I mean, I'd really love to see speed bumps on our section of the street, but that's not what this is about. This is about the zoning, and the zoning, as far as I'm concerned, is it should stay as a single-family unit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Carlton Jones, 1323 Oakland Drive. I think I need to get a little better understanding from staff the difference between two-family and duplex. Seems like if there's two families, you're calling it a duplex and it has to go to R2. If it's the same facility and it's just one family and they're using it, it's not necessarily to have in the R2? Is that what it's saying? If it's just one family in this facility, it still be called a duplex. But if it's just one family in there, it's R1. I mean, and so I need to get clarity on that, because I understand what the neighbors are saying. If we're moving it, all the other properties in there are R1, and other duplexes building, you know, are called duplexes, but they're zone R1. And if that's the idea for a duplex building to be in an R1, why do we start mixing it to say now we're going to spot zone some of them to be twos, and it's really a duplex building in R1? I'm just a little confused. So I would hate to say, if I was living in an R1 area and we got a lot of duplex in our R1, then we start letting certain ones be R2s, it would be concerning to me too. So I just want to see, are we setting this up where if it's a duplex and you want to put two families in there, you got to come and have it rezoned? And if that's true, any other duplexes over there that has two families, do they need to become and be rezoned? Because if they got two families in there, that means that they should have R2 zoning. Is that true? Maybe answer that for me. Thank you.
All right, this is a last call for anyone who'd like to speak who hasn't already. Okay, and with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. To clarify one of the questions, Commissioner McGinnis was asking about daycare versus child care. Just as a point of clarification, it's not being proposed for this property, and it hasn't ever been used as such historically. Now, I believe there's a couple questions that I think staff is more prepared to answer on two-family versus duplex.
Okay. I'd be happy to clarify, and I want to thank all the public speakers under public hearing tonight. So in an R1 district, which is a one-family, you can have one unit and have one family within that unit. Once there is a second unit where it's a separate living quarters, separate kitchen, separate bathroom, that becomes a two-unit. A two-family dwelling unit and a duplex are really interchangeable units. If there are really, it's just depending on the number of units. A family is a term that is usually utilized having to do with those that live in the facility itself, within the definitions of both our zoning code and municipal code. But in an R1 district, you're only allowed single-family residential and then a few other small caveat things. In an R2 district, that is where a duplex is permitted, and that's where it's primarily utilized. Now, regarding two families, there are a lot of duplexes around the city that if they have been there for a long period of time, longer than our zoning code, which is 2012, our zoning code, along with every other zoning code in the United States, has a legal nonconformity. And that's where the existing facilities, as long as they don't alter, expand, modify, they are allowed to continue. Now, if they want to add on a 500 square foot addition to the house, they would actually have to get a rezoning or another zoning tool through a public hearing to be able to get that approved. The applicant tonight is looking to just rectify the situation here, and I think the two differences in staff's opinion was really the fact that this is adjacent to R2 properties. It's not, in staff's opinion, not a spot zoning. And number two is this, while the legal nonconformity went away when this was converted to a one-family, this was historically a two-family house, so it is a unique situation that Planning Commission is seeing tonight.
Point of order, we have to stand at recess until the commission gains a quorum again.
Thank you, Commissioner McGinnis. Unfortunately not, sorry.
Quorum is restored. Recess is over.
And Chair, that's the extent of my explanations. If the Planning Commission has any further questions, let myself or the staff know.
Okay.
Tim.
And I believe there was a question about 54 Mohawk and a fence. My recommendation for that would be to call code enforcement, as they are the body that would be able to handle that issue. Now, do we have any final questions from any of our commissioners to either staff or the applicant?
Just one.
You can go first. Okay.
Just one comment that if parking is a problem on that street, be sure to contact your city council person and also ask for the police to come along and start to ticket those vehicles. Be sure to complain, and it's good that you're here today raising these concerns, but the best place to go is with your city council person, and I guess even the mayor as well, But make sure they know that that's an issue. Thank you. Thank you all for giving your comments and thoughts tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Northcross. Commissioner McGinnis, you had some questions or comments?
Yes, and I apologize for clouding the matter by referencing daycares and childcare. It's because if this is rezoned to R2, I was looking at what are the allowed uses under R2. You could have a single-family home, a two-family home, and daycare center. And I was trying to understand what are the requirements, what protections and safeguards does the city have on that? One has already been identified that there has to be at least 1,500 square foot of open play area. So this is, as it currently stands, wouldn't be eligible. So I'm not too concerned that there might be unintended consequences, and it might not even be this property owner, a future property owner, because when we would rezone, it wouldn't be just for the current owner, it'd be for whoever owns in the future. So I just wanted to make sure we were looking at that. In this instance, it won't be invoked, but I want us to keep looking at that so that way a neighborhood doesn't unintentionally start seeing a cluster of those without it being fully aware and that being part of the vision or the plan for the community, because it adds a lot of value. There's a great benefit to having those in neighborhoods, but we just want to be conscientious, and I know other cities have run into challenges when they didn't spell it out too explicitly, and then it caused some growing pains in neighborhoods. But it won't impact this parcel, so it was more of an academic exercise, and I'm sorry that that clouded the matter.
So can I say, because it didn't cloud my matter?
No. Yeah, I appreciate that.
So listen to this part. I asked
We
We're not
can't
at
have any
public comment,
questions
sorry.
at this time, sorry.
But, so to Ms. Clark and Mr. Fekart, there is a public comment section that will come later on, and you are able to speak then and maybe reiterate more questions or concerns on this or other matters. And I'm happy to address further if there's more information we can share. So we're quoting some years here on when things might have reverted or flip-flopped from R1 to R2. That's the staff saying, we know what is on the books for that year. It could have changed earlier or later than that, meaning I went, during the course of some of the conversation, I went back and looked at all the meeting minutes for this body in 2017. This or this area did not come up for a rezoning in 2017. It must have happened between 2009 and 2017. What we know is that there was a master plan update for the city. None of us, maybe Commissioner Northcross, but it's been a minute, so I won't expect you to remember dates. And none of staff were here at the time, so we can't easily say, this is when they updated some zoning action. But
Mike, can I do a point of information on
Yes.
that? So as far back as 2005, we know that this has been zoned R1. I think the point staff has made in the presentation is that we know it was being utilized as a duplex until somewhere in the early 2010s. Do I have that correct, Paul? So the zoning doesn't always match the land use, but at some time it was converted there and lost its legal nonconformity when that happened. Thank you.
got it, helpful clarification. So it'd been using and sort of was grandfathered, and then at some point the grandfathered and just to hammer it home, duplex is the more common phrase for the legal definition of two-family dwelling unit.
That is correct.
Okay. And to the community member identifying that, hey, what if we've got 5 or 6 or, a lot of families? The legal determinant isn't how many families live in a place. It's how the house or structure is built, what it is staged for. Because in my single-family home, it'd be intense, but I could have a whole bunch of families crammed in there, my extended family, and then it's a definition. But I want to drill into that further. Planning, is there any instance that we know of in the city's code that speaks to sort of confirming how many people are in a dwelling? Does the code speak to that at all? Because that would regulate how many kids somebody could have. I don't think we could legally do that, but.
We don't have, I don't believe we have it in the zoning code, but I think the building code and the municipal code has more detail about that. I don't have that this evening.
I would just add that the code limits it based on family, so it'll say one family versus two family, and then when we get into the area of defining what a family is, it becomes legally dubious.
Legally dubious, okay. I just want to raise that because what matters is how the structure is built. Has planning seen or gotten information on the structure of the property? So it sounds like there was there's a history of it being a two-family dwelling unit historically, and then it was at some point single family, at least legally it should have been, one family unit. I don't think that really impacts the zoning per se, because let's say a whole block somewhere in Pontiac, not here, but a whole block converts from R1 to R2, a property owner would have the legal option to convert a single-family home into a two-family home, right? Is that how that works?
If a property is zoned R2 and there is a single-family structure in that R2 district, yes, a structure can be converted into a duplex or a dwelling unit that has two occupying units.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that answered my primary questions more broadly and not just in the instance of this item, but I'm really grateful that the residents nearby came and gave us some perspective as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGinnis. And if there are no further comments from any of our commissioners, I think we can go ahead and, yep.
I'll ask one question.
Absolutely.
I think it was brought up, but how do we, every case has to come here, right? We're not setting a precedent. Is that correct? Like if two doors down, because this one seems to make sense because it's right, it's pretty close to R2 as it is.
Yeah.
But if 3 or 4 houses down, they want to come for the same thing, are we setting a precedent, or is it case by case at that point?
You know, and one of the things one of our public speakers made was about spot zoning, and I think each individual case, you're looking at the property and you're looking at the area around it. There is a little bit of precedent, you're right, but being adjacent to R2 on the west side and on the south side, you know, it gives it a little bit more credence. Now, the master plan, when it comes to residential, is very, and then the 2014 one is very vague when it comes to the difference between R1 and R2. I think that Planning Commission definitely, and City Council for that matter, as the adopting body, really has the ability to reflect that. But sometimes, you know, what we're trying to prevent is like apartment complexes in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Now, if there's already a building there, you know, they are allowed to continue that sort of thing. But in terms of the rezoning aspect, you can definitely take a look at the merits with the standards of approval.
What I'm wrestling with is that the Indian Village neighborhood is predominantly single-family homes, and you know, there's a lot of character and benefit to it being a single-family neighborhood. To Commissioner Shepherd's point, it's at that border. It's at the transition from the Huron corridor into the neighborhood. So I'm challenged by it because I don't want this to be a concentrated neighborhood full of, you know, two-family, multifamily, because it's very dense as a single-family neighborhood, and that works for this neighborhood. It's a very attractive and appealing neighborhood, and we want to retain and respect and grow that. So the main hesitation I have is about the encroachment, you know, because what the precedence, to Commissioner Shepherd's excellent question, is the biggest impact it would have is on the house next to it. That would be the most likely of, oh, well, it's at the border of all the other R2s, what's 1 or 2 more parcels? And I don't necessarily expect that. I don't think that the properties would benefit from that. A future planning commission hopefully wouldn't make that decision. But that's my main hesitation, just the density of the neighborhood and the density of, I think this structure, parking-wise, presently can handle it, but it's about the density of the neighborhood more broadly that I'm just trying to be mindful of as we're weighing that decision. We are updating the city's master plan right now, and after that, we do expect a broader zoning update. Staff, is now a good time for you to let us know, because that wouldn't be, you wouldn't be bringing us every individual parcel. We have 40,000 parcels in the city. Not that you're going to change or propose changing 40,000 parcels zoning designation, but you might be doing them more comprehensively at one time. What should the community, property owners, and the commission expect? And is that like a year out, 2 years out? What's the read on that? And I won't hold you to it, I promise.
Sure. So once the master plan, assuming it gets adopted, it's planned to be before this board on May 7th, which is in 1 month, and then at City Council on May 20th, a few weeks later. We are preparing to send out an RFP for a consultant. And we expect a zoning process, because this is not something we're writing it in 2 months and just bringing it to Planning Commission. There are some things within the master plan we want to make sure that are addressed in the zoning code, and that zoning code relates to how the map is. And so as a member of the public, I would anticipate hearing later this year any opportunity that we would have to review some of the facts about the zoning code changes and then the map that is part of it, because they will be in tandem and reviewed and approved at the same time.
Thank you. No further questions. But I want to make sure the community knows this is a rezoning, so it's a recommendation from this body, and then it goes to City Council for 2 readings, at least 2 readings before the final decision. So if you're mad at the recommendation, just know that it's not the final say, or if you're happy with the recommendation, just know it's not the final step either.
Thank you. All right, I think with that, we can get a motion out on the table.
I move to recommend approval of the proposed rezoning of 11 Mohawk Road from R1 one-family dwelling district to R2 family and, is it Terrence Residential District, based on the findings of fact identified in the staff report.
For clarity, that's the full name of the district, but we usually shorten it to R22 family because we don't really know what a Terrence Residential District is.
I've never heard it.
Do we have a support?
I'll allow you. Support.
I have a point of information. Might it be Terrace?
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Okay. All right. Terrace Residential sounds a lot more attractive than Terrence.
Now that we have the motion out there, if there's any final deliberations among this body that need to occur before we take a roll call on the motion, now is the time to bring that up. And I'm getting crickets, so why don't we go ahead and do a roll call?
Commissioner Northcross,
I'm voting yes to approve.
Commissioner Shepard,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner McGinnis,
No to recommend denial.
and Commissioner Henley.
Yes to approve.
Motion passes.
Congratulations. And to all the people or members of our community that came out to speak on this matter tonight, as Commissioner McGinnis said, this was just a recommendation. There will be 2 other opportunities at City Council where this matter will come up, and you're encouraged to attend those meetings as well to bring up your concerns then as well. And to the concerns for that neighborhood, such as parking and people using it as a side passageway, to echo Commissioner Northcross's points, please continue beyond that. There's code enforcement, your city council member, police. There's a lot of actions for recourse on that, so I encourage you to keep on that.
And that includes the basketball hoops in the street. That is not permitted. Is there an address that's close by? Is that a kind of across from 11 Mohawk, or?
Yes, and it's 20 Mohawk.
Okay.
It's probably a bridge.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. I will submit that on your behalf. You don't have to make an extra call.
All right, thank you. Congratulations again.
Will we get notices like this one that came out when the other meetings are?
I can answer that. So this is the only public hearing at the process. Now, this is slated to go to City Council in May. There will be 2 readings. The first one will probably be May 6th. And the following one will probably be 2 weeks later. There is not a public hearing for the agenda item, but there is a public comment as part of the meeting where you can address things on the agenda if you'd like to speak to City Council any farther.
Is that allowed to be done in person, or does it have to be done in writing, or?
You have options. So there are 2 scheduled city council meetings in May, and so even though they haven't been agenda finalized, he's anticipating those 2 readings will be at those 2 meetings. They're open to the public. They are in these rooms, these chambers. It starts at 6 p.m. You can speak in person, but if you prefer to submit your concerns in writing to your council person or the whole city council, that's a right to you, and you could do that anytime. And you can get, I'll give you, well, I can't because we'll lose quorum, but you can contact me and I can get you the city council members' contacts. Staff can as well. That is an option to you on this or other matters.
And the Friday evening before the meeting, the city clerk publishes the agenda. So if you wanted to confirm over the weekend, hey, is this still on the agenda, you can view it on the city's website.
Okay, and with that, I think we can move on to our next item on the agenda, which is just a general public comment. So this will run very similar to the public comment or the public hearing we just did for the rezoning, except you are not limited by speaking on that topic. You are allowed to speak on any topic. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open the public comment.
Yeah, I need to speak first, 'cause I gotta go. All right. What I want to say is relating to this one that just was passed. Staff, I want you to be real conscious of R1 in Pontiac. It seems as if though R1 is being intruded in a lot of areas in a lot of different ways. And a lot of us who have lived in R1s and bought into R1s, we always thought it would be people living there, not a lot of renters, homeowners. So anytime you start doing that, you got to feel that it's going to be some people who were in there knowing it was R1, that you want to have some protection. And I don't care how you dress it up, when you start letting renters into a predominantly homeowners area, it's issues. And I'm not saying that, because that's a nice area, as Council President was saying, everybody know about that area. It's been around. People always look at that as a historic area in Pontiac, and we want to try to keep some areas that way. The other thing I want to ask is, I'm concerned, this is off as another thing, the master plan, I want to find out, is the golf course on both sides being looked at the same way? It appears to me that there is something in the mix with the golf course being one side something and the other side being something different. And that golf course is an 18-hole golf course, and I can't see any reason why it's being looked at as two different ways. And if that's true, I need to find out, and I want to understand what is that master plan towards the change of the golf course. So at some point in time, I would like to get a response on that. I do have to leave, but I want to put that on the record books.
Can you at least stick around to the end of public comment?
Okay. I'm late already.
Well, then I'll meet you outside.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you for a couple more minutes here, and I'll be very brief. Like I said, my aunt and uncle had a house over on Delaware, 56 Delaware, that was definitely a two-person or two-family unit. But there was a separate, even though there was an entrance into it, there was a separate stairway to go up to the upstairs, and they had a full bath and kitchen and the whole routine up there. So I understand some of it. My biggest concern is the amount of traffic that we already have there. It would definitely not qualify as daycare or childcare in any way, shape, or form, because there is nothing there. And I am concerned about the parking situation, because even though there's parking situation for the other facilities there, they don't seem to be used, and that whole end of the street is all parked up, probably 6 or 7 cars, and several of them actually park on the other side of the sign where it says, "Don't park on this side of the sign." So it's going to be a dangerous situation at some point, even if it isn't right at the moment. Thanks.
Good afternoon again. Is it 2 minutes or 3 minutes?
2 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. Ma'am, thank you. Oh, my goodness. You choked me up here. Listen to this. My concern is that the planning, your responsibility for a volunteer is very loaded. It's very heavy. As Mr. Jones stated to you, there's residents that's been in this neighborhood long before you guys were even born or thought of. And with that being said, Pontiac, especially Seminole Hills and Indian Village, at one point when the economy went down, the way to make a profit was to rent out rooms and rent out homes. Okay, it worked for that time. But right now, I will hope that you guys are looking for growth within inside of Pontiac. Not growth with this bringing investors in here to make a profit for their pockets, because landlords' responsibility is to collect the rent. They don't have the desire of historical and putting it back, keeping historical. And like you said, once you let renters in, and I'm quite sure you guys have experienced renters, their responsibility is not as heavy as a homeowner. I feel for this young lady, so please don't misinterpret me. She was misled. And actually, I personally will sue the person and go back and say, look, you misled me, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not her. She's not me. And with that being said, to correct a person who's in the wrong, to help correct that, to make it right, make you just as wrong as the person who sold their property. Because now you're infringing on the neighborhood to make a wrong into a right. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know if she's living in the property. I don't know if she want to rent it out. But whatever it is, you're taking away a R1, which is residential. And I definitely 1,000% know the difference between R1 and R2. You're opening up for other historical homes to go that same direction.
My name is Rich Blanchard. My address is 4776 Granger Road, Oxford, Michigan. I own property in Pontiac. I spoke last month when it was postponed. And I just have a curiosity. I'm on the zoning board with Brandon. And when we okay a variance change, it stays with that property forever. Is that the same here? If this is changed, it's not just for her, it's for that property. Okay, which makes, I think that's state guided, but that's what was my curiosity. Thank you.
Final call for anyone who'd like to speak for public comment. Okay, and with that, we're going to close public comment.
Mr. Chair, just a quick note. This is not a variance change. This is an actual zoning change. So that piece of property is zoned differently than what it was. It's not a variance. So it does stay with that property. So, good point.
Thank you, Commissioner Northcross.
Excuse me if I may take a little.
One moment. Be right back.
All right, we are entering recess at 7:01. This would be a good time for anyone else who needs to use the bathroom to do so.
Is public comment still open, by the way?
I closed it.
Nick, do they need a motion to go back into the meeting at this point?
I believe so, yes. Now that we have a quorum again and we are in recess, so we should
Okay.
motion that to go back.
Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
All right, since we have quorum now, I need a motion to return back to session.
I move we return back to session.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, and at this point, I'd just like to have a motion out there to excuse Commissioner Sinclair, who will be unable to join us for the rest of this meeting.
And Commissioner Duval? We didn't actually do a
And
motion.
Commissioner Duval as well.
I so move.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, staff, I believe, was there any further items from public comment that needed to be addressed from your end?
I don't think so. I did get to talk to the first gentleman out in the hallway, and we got to answer some of his questions, but I think everything else has been
Okay,
answered.
perfect. In that case, we will move on to our new old business. This will be application, it's a site plan review, SPR 25-009 for 94 Dwight. And this is a multifamily residential, so we could have the staff presentation at this time.
All right, so this is a perennial favorite of the board. 94 Dwight is coming forward to you now for another site plan review. The property is zoned R3, and they are requesting to convert it. Well, not really convert it. It's currently vacant, but it was previously used as multifamily residential. They're simply looking to reactivate the property. The building is existing, and the applicant is not proposing any alterations to the facade. Parking is provided to the north and to the east of the structure. Staff is recommending the proposed plans be approved with 9 conditions, and the applicant's request to reduce the required 10-foot buffer yard to 5 feet be approved. So in terms of the history, while the original Seminole Apartments featured 26 units when it opened in 1928, the apartment complex was last known to be occupied with 29 units active, per data that the city has on file. It has been vacant since that time. The first application that you saw earlier this year, the applicant in the property previously came forward to you on January 10th, 2025, with a request for 31 units. This was considered by staff to be an expansion from the last known occupancy of 29 units. The commission denied that site plan 3-2. The applicant is now coming forward to you with what is considered to be a brand new application. They are requesting to keep the number of units consistent with the historical number at 29. While Article 6.207 states a site plan denied shall not be resubmitted for 180 days from the date of denial, the applicant has resubmitted with fewer units, matching the number of units previously on site, and since this is not expansion, it is considered a new application. Furthermore, this is an existing building, and the use is permitted in the R3 zoning district, whereas the site, you're fine, don't worry. Whereas the site plan with this application is solely for the parking lot to come into more compliance. So here we have the site plan that you received in your packets. Oh, hold on. No, you're good. Don't worry about it. So the site plan hasn't changed much from when you previously saw it. The applicant is adding this parcel to the north, has acquired this parcel, intends to combine with the existing site to allow for additional parking back here. The building previously operated with 29 units with parking all located here. The applicant is expanding the number of parking spaces to come closer into compliance with the zoning ordinance. There's a dumpster proposed right here. Barrier-free parking spaces are provided right here, closest to the entrance, which is right here. Let's see, there's going to be a proposed buffer wall here on both sides of this additional parking area. That is a requirement in the ordinance due to the fact that it directly abuts single-family residential, so they're required a buffer wall and landscaping. However, the ordinance requires a 10-foot wide landscaped area, but that would render this unusable. So the applicant is requesting a waiver to reduce that down to 5 feet on either side. There's some proposed landscaping here, some trees along the front, but ultimately the footprint of the building will be staying the same. This is an aerial. This gives you an idea of where it sits within the actual developed land here. So in yellow here, this was rezoned to R3. And then this over here was conditionally rezoned to R3. The whole site is R3. You can see there are single-family homes surrounding it. There you go. So this is an example floor plan. This is the, I believe, it says the first floor at the bottom, but that's an error. This is actually the lower floor. So the primary entrance from the parking lot is right here. The applicant is proposing units composing these 4 sides on every floor. On every floor, I believe there are 2-bedroom to the north, and then I believe on the, I think it's the southwest corner here, it's usually a 1-bedroom. On most floors, there are additional units in the middle here with some storage on another floor. These are renderings supplied by the applicant showing their intended refurbishment of the property and what it'll look like. You can see they have some kind of picnic areas out front. We believe that is because of the recreational requirement. All applicants for multifamily are required to provide at least 5% of the property for some sort of recreation. I'll hold on here while people get photos.
Pontiac's planning paparazzi.
Yeah. One second. Okay. All right. So now into the zoning concerns. So staff conducted a thorough review of the plans against the zoning ordinance, and we identified some issues that had to be resolved. So in terms of the requirements for properties in the R3 multiple family dwelling district, the site plan should be revised to provide details on the side yard setbacks and building height. Furthermore, the parcels will need to be combined prior to final site plan approval. Lastly, the square footage of each unit must be provided to verify they are all greater than 600 square feet. I will step in here and state that many of the units are less than 600. They're actually 550, but this is a grandfathered condition. In terms of clear vision area, the plan should be revised to show the clear vision areas. In terms of requirements specific to the R3 district, the Planning Commission will need to determine whether or not to grant the 5-foot waiver from the required 10-foot landscape side yard setback. The proposed development is located appropriately and meets the building design standards. There is adequate ingress and egress for vehicular circulation. Concrete sidewalks are provided per code, and barrier-free spaces are located closest to the front entrance. In terms of parking requirements, multifamily dwellings are required 1.1 parking spaces per every bedroom. The applicant is proposing 34 parking spaces, but they are not required to waiver this time due to the fact that it is an existing condition. They are not expanding the number of units. Parking spaces for bicycles will be required simply due to the fact that there are more than 25 vehicle spaces provided. When that happens, our code requires that they include at least 2 bicycle spaces. For striping requirements, the ordinance requires parking lots to be striped in white or yellow. The site plan should be revised to indicate what color they will be striped in. In terms of buffer requirements, the applicant is compliant. The plans call for a 6-foot privacy fence where the parking lot abuts the adjacent residence. The parking lot, I already went over this. This is the 5-foot setback waiver request. In terms of frontage for landscaping, the plan should be revised to include 5 street trees rather than the 3 shown. They just need to provide 2 more. In terms of loading, storage, and service area screening requirements, the plan should be revised to include details on the trash enclosure. And for installation and maintenance, please provide further details on the species of each plant proposed, the dimensions of the caliper at the time of planting, and other relevant details. In addition, we need to see that maintenance plan for so that we know how the landscaping is going to be maintained. For lighting, details are needed on the existing exterior lighting. It appears from the plans that new exterior lighting will be added, but full schematics need to be provided for all the exterior lights. A photometric plan will be required at the time of final site plan review. In terms of low impact development standards, there are no natural features on site that need to be protected. It is not in a wetland or floodplain, and it is an existing development. And in terms of performance standards, staff has no concerns about emissions, odors, gases, noises, vibrations, disturbances, hazardous substances, glare, fire, or waste management due to the fact that this is a residential development rather than industrial. For the subjective standards of approval, in terms of circulation, the site would appear to be sufficient for traffic and pedestrian circulation. There are 2 access drives and 1 exit. Barrier-free parking spaces are placed closest to the rear entrance of the building. In terms of the building, The existing building would not appear to present any adverse impacts on adjacent properties. For natural features, there are no existing natural features on site in need of preservation or buffering. And for the site layout, the applicant is proposing a masonry wall where the new parking lot is adjacent to residential. In terms of compliance with the zoning ordinance, there are a number of informational items that need to be addressed, including the location of clear vision triangles, the paint color or parking lot striping, details on the trash enclosure, and details on the exterior lighting. In terms of adjustments that need to be made to the actual plan, all 3 parcels must be combined. A parking lot setback waiver of 5 feet must be secured from the Planning Commission. The plans need to be revised to show at least 5% of the site reserved for recreation, and we need to see on there what that recreation will be. At least 2 bicycle spaces must be added, 5 trees must be provided rather than 3, and photometrics must be provided at the time of final site plan approval. And in summary, the structure and layout of the site appear to be suitable for the proposed use, and there are no major risks to the public health, safety, and welfare. The site is existing, and the applicant is seeking to reuse the structure for the same use it has historically been used for. However, there are some issues that need to be addressed. The parcels must be combined, a waiver secured, recreation must be added to the site, and additional revisions that I've already gone over are necessary. Okay. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the site plans with 9 conditions. 1, the nonconformities identified in the staff report shall not be altered, extended, or enlarged. 2, the Planning Commission specifically approves the reduced parking lot setback from 10 feet to 5 feet. 3, the site plans must be revised to include all the informational items identified in the staff report. 4, all 3 parcels must be combined and conditional rezoning agreement deeded on the property before the final site plan is issued. 5, the site plans must be revised to include and designate recreation on at least 5% of the property. 6, at least 2 bicycle spaces must be added. 7, 2 more trees must be added. 8, photometrics must be provided. And 9, the applicant must provide location of the fire department connection on the site plan before final site plan is issued, aligned with their comment within the plan set on fire suppression. And I have sample motions for your use. Thank you.
Corey, thank you. And I just wanted to take a minute to recap what Corey was saying here. So this is a brand new application. Even though it was denied, because there's been significant change. This is really utilizing an existing site, not an expansion. We reviewed with the Kelly firm, the city can accept this application. But a couple things to remember with this is this building is existing. They are allowed to use the building, and this site plan today is really related to the parking lot expansion along with the dumpster and enclosure wall and things like that. That really is what Planning Commission is reviewing. I know in the first denial, the reason the Planning Commission made in the motion was circulation. And the one thing I did want to share, it's in the staff report, is that it was expressed that Liberty Avenue, you cannot park on there. And we actually, it looks like those are no parking signs, but on further review, it's actually faded at the bottom and it's no parking here to the corner in most of those. So while from staff's perspective, we don't count street parking as the required parking. There is an ability for vehicles to park on Liberty in appropriate locations. And obviously we will flag that to our DPW, in a future time to hopefully get those signs updated as well. But, really this is a new application, and let us know if you have any questions. And the Kelly firm has been working with city staff to understand this. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark and Corey. And before we get into those questions, if we could have our applicant come up, add any other context, say anything else that wasn't covered by the staff presentation. The floor is yours.
How are you guys? Back again. I thought for the dumpster we were going to have it, it's going to be bricked or cinder blocked surround. We moved it 2 feet away from the building as from the last hearing we had. So I know that I thought we submitted photometrics at one point, but we've been kind of back and forth, so some of it got lost. And also with the, 5% recreation and the bike. So I thought we had that in there, and it probably just got lost in the shuffle, but I think we already have a plan for all that anyway. Yeah.
And all those items can be addressed at the final site plan stage.
Of course.
All right. Was there anything else you need to add, or you good?
think I'm good.
All right, well, I'll just go down the line here. Commissioner McGinnis, any questions for staff or our applicant?
Briefly, I just want to say thank you for your persistence. This is a worthy project, a worthy historic structure, and it's worthy of being brought back to light. So thank you for working through the meandering municipal maze that it requires, which it'll be worth it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shepard.
I would agree with that. I mean, I've had properties on that street and the next street over, and I've looked at that thing as just an eyesore for a long time. So, thank you for doing something with it. Hopefully, you'll make it really nice.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the structure is great. I don't know what year it was built. You probably would know that, but
I believe we're at 1928.
yeah. So just make it nice. I mean, you kind of did what you needed to do. You took a couple of the units out, and I think you'll be fine. So, but thank you.
Commissioner Northcross.
Yes, I admire your persistence, so thank you for that persistence. Got a couple of questions. We were saying the structure was originally built with 26 units?
29.
No, I believe it was 26.
26.
That
Yep.
was the statement.
He is correct.
I defer to Mr. Yandrick. How many units was the structure originally built with?
So actually, Commissioner Sinclair shared with staff the Oakland Press article from that year in 1928. Actually, there were several articles and advertisements, but it was originally 26 units. But the data that we have on this property, going back to county ownership, and prior to that, we believe that it was 29 units when it was last operated in the 2000s.
And, you know, that's okay, because I'm looking at the existing plans, and this is a little simplistic. Help me out here. You know, I'm a little simplistic in looking at this because I'm out of my water when I start. I'm really out of my normal element when I start to look at the plans that are labeled existing lower level plan. And what I did, and this may be not the right approach, but I says, well, we have a hallway, and from each hallway would be a door to would be a door to a unit. So I'm saying, well, the number of doors would then say how many units there are. And as I was counting the number of doors for the existing lower level plans that were submitted, I came up with 26, which agrees with what I believe you just stated in terms of how the building was originally built. And, you know, that we just went through the thing on Mohawk where we've had some renovations that have happened that have not been permitted. I mean, we also had this building existing here since 1928, and it was originally in an area, I think it was zoned R1, and we as a commission, a commission, I think recommended that we go from R1 to R3. In doing so, the building would then be would then be allowed to continue, wouldn't be tearing it down. Now, I don't know about the other commissioners, but I did that with the understanding that as the building was renovated, it would be renovated in such a way it would meet most, if not all, of the R3 requirements. And, you know, that renovation from 26 to 29 units, I'm not sure if that happened at a time when we had a full complement of zoning enforcement people and building people in place, which for a number of years we've not had in Pontiac. And then, furthermore, as I go through and I look at the proposed plans, using that same way of saying, okay, one unit is represented by one door on a hallway. And I counted on the proposed plans 31 units. Actually 32 doors, but it's nicely labeled on the print that there is one door on the lower level of the floor plan that leads to storage with elevated floor to hall. So that goes actually 32 doors, and we would have 31 doors that would conceivably lead to units. I'm just counting.
Commissioner Northcross?
So is that a faulty assumption?
Yeah, the number of doors, so this is any building, business, you know, a lot of businesses, I'm going to use this as an example, a little different than multifamily, they are going to have storage areas. And what the applicant has proposed in the basement here is 2 areas that are for storage or vending area. I will let you as the applicant describe what that is. Those are not allowed to be rental units at all. You know, they have converted those from the previous application to be storage areas. Now, would you like to describe, Chris, a little bit for the commission about what those rooms are going to do?
I mean, a couple of the doors, I think one was for, I think it was like the water meters, gas meters, something like that, on one of the sides too. So yeah, I mean, it can be 32 doors, but we're only doing 29 units. So there'll be storage, you know, maybe with some more common areas, but they're not going to be used as units.
Oh, that would be labeled on the mechanical plan? First floor mechanical plan?
It's on the proposed.
Which doors are not?
You'll see it.
It's on A6.
A6.
Which is the proposed lower level floor plan.
Oh, okay. So, okay. So we really go from 32 to 3 doors are not going to be, 3 doors would lead to unit or areas that are not going to be rental?
Exactly, storage and common areas.
Okay. And the question too now is that the 26 doors that we had on the original proposed plans, how do they overlay with what we have today?
I'm not sure about
that goes into like the 550 square foot units that don't meet our today's code. Did they meet the code? Did we ever have those units meeting the code, or have they always been 550? And if so, do we have the plans that say that we're always 550?
So we don't, as far as I know, we didn't have the original 1928 plans. We tried to look for those because it would have been a lot cheaper for us, to be honest with you. But going through, I mean, even if you walk in now, you can see each unit, there's still all the framing. So it's not like there's, you know, you can see where each unit is, and you can see where the load-bearing walls are. So those interior units that that are not 600 square feet, those are, you have the staircase going through, stuff like that. But you can see where the bedroom was, where the closet was, where the bathrooms were for each one of those units. It's So it's pretty laid out. And we just went over the existing, what was there.
And there's no way to get those up to the 600?
There's no way.
With the current plans, there's no way.
There's the way the building is built, there's just no way to do it. Yeah.
Okay. I guess my concern is that we have had, you know, we're having people come into the area and they're taking over current housing and they're renovating those housings, and they're making compliance with the ordinances that we have in place. And boy, we're going from 53 parking spaces down to 34 parking spaces. We have two-way traffic on Dwight. We do have one-way traffic on Mark. And on Liberty, which can be a heavily used street, yeah, it's going to be tight up in there. So I'm not sure if we're.
I mean, we're gearing this more towards family,
going the
family
opposite
style
direction
condos.
of what we want to be.
I think this is geared towards family, so I don't think it's going to be opposite of what you guys are standing for sure. So it's going to be geared towards family. We're going to make sure of that. Like I said, we're going to have cameras in the common areas. We are going to be you know, this, I mean, honestly, we're taking care of this. It's been 5 years now. I've been going at this. So if it doesn't show that we're here willing to do it and do it right, I really don't know what else I can say after that.
Commissioner.
And you know, again, the concern is that of parking. I mean, we already heard on Mohawk, and one of the things on the previous item that we looked at was the availability for parking beside and behind the building. That looked like it would more than be adequate for the people staying there, with our assumption of 1.1 spaces per bedroom. But here, we're nowhere near that. And we're, I don't know, it just appears that we might be overloading an area. You know, and this is a thing that as we get into tighter density, I'm becoming more and more aware that we have to look in a number of dimensions and make sure that we're checking off all those boxes to not, you know, hurt folks that are already there. I don't know that 26 to 29 too is a concern for me. But okay. That's my comments.
Commissioner Northcross, can I just state that from staff's perspective, this is 29, and what Planning Commission's reviewing tonight is not the use of the building. It's actually, you know, this applicant has come forward with an application to come more into compliance. And in general, that is a welcome thing. I know it's not perfect. I know the space is not, you know, the most ideal, you know, for things that you mentioned. But in terms of, Nick, in terms of who makes the determinations of legal nonconformities, and what, you know, is that a staff, is that Planning Commission, is that the ZBA? You know, what is Planning Commission's role tonight when it comes to this application?
Right, so in this case, this is a permitted use by right in the R3 district. So he can have, you know, while the parking is not in compliance with the code as it exists, it was previously used as a 29-unit building. It is resuming use, even though it has been vacant for several years. But there's no case law or anything in the city's ordinances that state that a permitted use becomes abandoned. There's sections in the code and case law that covers nonconformities in their abandonment, but this building is a conforming use for the district that it's in. And while the parking is not met, that is why a waiver is not being required here, because it, as the staff reports indicated and our research found, that it is a grandfathered accessory use to the principal permitted use of a multifamily residential home in this district.
Thank you, Nick. Before we get to that, you know, this is a new application, but we've seen this project many times at this point, so I don't necessarily have any original questions. Just want to make some comments that, you know, we're all well aware that this site just comes with a parking issue. It's just a fact of the lot. My previous reservations were that by choosing to add more spaces, it was just exacerbating the original problem. But now that we're back at this point where we're just bringing the old building back to, we're just rehabilitating the building without extending or expanding the number of units or the uses. And in fact, well, not required, you're still attempting to make the parking situation better and closer to code enforcement, or code requirements rather. You know, it's not an ideal situation, but obviously you're doing everything you can within your power. And as I see it now, this building's just an eyesore. And if it looks anything like what you're planning to do with those renderings, then I think that's going to be a welcome addition back into the neighborhood. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
So unless there's any final comments from any of our commissioners, I think we can go ahead and get a motion.
Just one final comment. We were asking, I know that at least I was asking when we did the change from R1 to R3, you know, exactly what's going to happen. And I think the comment was, well, you know, you're going to have some changes in the site plans and other things on the building, and this and that and this and that is going to happen. And now we're at the R3 level, and we're looking at the site plans, and the nonconformities were not legal at the time. From my perspective, and I'm not a lawyer, but from my perspective, they were not legal. and I think they still exist. And just wanted to go on record as saying that.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the requested site plan for a multifamily dwelling at 94 Dwight Avenue based on the findings of fact identified in the staff report and with the 9 conditions outlined in the staff report.
Support. Roll call.
Commissioner Shepard?
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Northcross?
No to deny.
Commissioner McGinnis?
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Henley?
Yes to approve.
Motion passes.
Congratulations. Thank you. If there's anything, Plan Manager Mark Yandrick will follow up with any further details on next steps and all that.
Really, it's the final site plan and the conditions tonight for a new application on that.
Okay, moving on to our next item of new business. This is application SPR 25-004, another site plan review for the address 212 Osmond Street.
Okay, so tonight's final case is a site plan. It is located at 212 Osmond Street. You are familiar with this project. It previously came forward to you as a rezoning. At that time, the address was, I believe, 339 Paddock, but it is the same property. It has been, the correct address is 212 Osmond Street. The applicant is requesting wholesale storage for vehicles, and the zoning is M1. This body and the council approved that rezoning last fall. The property is currently undeveloped open space adjacent to the parcel on which their current vehicle storage facility is operating. The applicant is seeking to expand onto the adjacent parcel with the addition of a 10,500 square foot building for additional parking. Staff reviewed the initial site plans and recommends they be approved with 3 conditions. So here are the site plans. This is the existing building right here, and this is the proposed expansion right here. Currently, I believe the parcel line is roughly right here, something like that. And they're going to be combining them and then expanding their access drive from the parking lot, their existing parking lot, around the back of the site and then around to service this building. They are not proposing any new access drives off Osmond or Jesse. This is a floor plan to show you the simplicity of the building they're seeking to build. There's no offices in it, there's no bathrooms. It is simply for the storage of vehicles. Vehicles can enter, drive down the center lane, exit, or park. This is the existing site. Sorry, I don't know why I chose white font, but this is looking south from Osmond Street. This was taken in July of 2024. You can see it's an undeveloped open space, overgrown with landscaping. This is a photo taken from the intersection of Jesse and Osmond. This was to give you an idea of how much the site is buffered naturally. We're gonna move on. So now in terms of zoning compliance concerns, for the M1 Light Manufacturing District, the proposed facility is in compliance with the dimensional requirements for structures in the M1 zoning district. The front, side, and rear setbacks are all appropriate, and the facility is only 1 story, well under the 3-story maximum. Please demonstrate on the plans that the intersection of Osmond Street and South Jesse Street complies with the zoning ordinance clear vision requirements. In terms of parking, please provide the % area of transparency as well as the area for each material on the proposed front facade. Please clarify where mechanical equipment will go and verify it will be screened from view from the adjacent street. You just have to verify that it won't be visible from the street. The applicant has provided 3 facade options for the Planning Commission to select from. The first option does not appear to meet the 40% transparency requirement. The second option provides enough transparency but does not appear to meet the 512 pitch requirement, and for that reason staff is recommending to you option 3 as seen here. This would be the facade facing Osmond Street. They're proposing transparency over here and quality materials at the base. We believe that this is the best option that they have presented. In terms of location of parking spaces, the parking requirement for this facility is 1 for every 2,000 square feet. Using this calculation, they are required 6 spaces, 1 barrier-free. They are proposing exactly that. For the barrier-free space, though, we'll need a slight revision. A 96-inch wide access aisle must be provided for the barrier-free spaces. That's for lifting on and off of the vehicle. In terms of the maneuvering lane, the site plan should be revised to provide the width of each maneuvering lane. For striping, the site plan should be revised to provide the color the parking lot will be striped in. And for surfacing, please revise the site plans to indicate how the parking lot will be surfaced. For landscaping, the proposed landscaping is indicated on sheet CS 101. Please provide more details on the proposed species and the maintenance plan for each plant. And for exterior lighting, the proposed exterior lighting is downward directed, fully shielded, and will not exceed the foot candle maximums for the property. There are no concerns about natural features on site. There are no wetlands or floodplains. The site was previously used for industrial many, many years ago. In terms of hazardous materials, they are not proposing any hazardous substances. So there you go. In terms of the subjective standards for circulation, the site plans will need to be revised to provide the 96-inch wide access aisle for the barrier-free space. The proposed plans will need to be revised per the fire department's comments, which indicate information on gate specifications and sequence of operations is still needed. For the buildings, the existing and proposed building would not appear to present any adverse impacts on adjacent properties, and no buffering is required. For natural features, there are none in need of preservation. And for site layout, no screening is required. The layout of the site is appropriate for the addition of a storage building. The applicant is not proposing any new curb cuts.
Can you stay there, Corey, for just a second?
Sure.
The one thing I want to highlight here, though, even though this isn't necessary for planning commission, is there are some concerns from the fire department regarding 360 access and a fire hydrant. We have a condition that you'll be seeing shortly, but the applicant should really address this at the final site plan. I did want to make planning commission aware you may see a slightly revised layout for that as part of this, but you can ask any questions a little later on that. So thank you. Thank you, Corey.
No problem. And so then the remaining subjective standard is in regards to compliance with the zoning ordinance. I've already gone through that in detail. In summary, the structure and layout of the site appear to be suitable for the proposed use, and there are no major risks to the public health, safety, and welfare. However, there are some issues that need to be addressed concerning parking and landscaping, and the commission will need to make a decision on which facade to approve. And with that, we have 4 conditions for you. We recommend approval with 4 conditions. The first is that the site plans will be revised to include all the informational items indicated as missing in the staff report. 2, the planning commission selects facade option number 3, which provides the required amount of transparency and slope. The site plans will be revised to provide a 96-inch wide access aisle for the barrier-free space, and the applicant shall comply with fire department comments regarding hydrant, access, and other conditions before receiving final site plan approval. And then I have motions for your use.
All right, thank you, Corey. At this point, if our applicant would like to come up and add any additional context or address anything that wasn't already addressed by the staff presentation, the floor is yours.
So I did bring a revised site plan showing that we've met most of the conditions already with our revisions. So I'd like to. And to address the fire department comment with the hydrant, we do have a hydrant on site already. I don't believe we've seen any comments yet from the fire department on what revisions need to be made, so they're not reflected in this updated plan. Only the staff comments that were received are updated in this plan, and they're highlighted as such. The one item that I would like the commission to consider is a selection of facade option number 3. So we feel that it's not well suited for our application. One, it doesn't conform with what's already existing. So the structure we constructed 5 years ago isn't going to match this new structure, right? And then also, considering the roof pitch, it's going to be more intrusive to the neighboring parcels, right? So our existing building at the peak is 21 feet tall. If we were to increase the roof pitch, that's at a 112 roof pitch. If we were to increase the roof pitch to a 512, that would make our building 32 feet tall at the peak, right, which would be much more apparent to the neighboring parcels. Also, with regard to facade transparency, the transparency really serves no purpose for our use, right? I understand for maybe a factory type use, but we have conditional zoning, right? So this can only be indoor car storage. It's unoccupied space. And to further that end, we would have structure inside and would ultimately block the transparency inside with a wall, right? And so again, it would just be black and essentially serve no purpose.
I will note that the ordinance provides the commission with the ability to waive the frontage requirements. So because of that, any of the three options are available to you. Staff simply recommends 3.
Can you remind me what option 1 is?
So option 1 is in your packet. I don't have a.
That's the transparency? Or I thought that was option 3.
Hold on.
So they're in order in there. So option 1 is the facade option I would prefer you select.
Right, the key would be 301.1 is option 1, 301.2 option 2, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so 301.3 option 3, thank you.
And if I may, to match your old building, that's option 1?
That's correct.
Oops.
All right, is there anything else you wanted to add? Okay.
That's all I have at this moment.
I will go down the line then, as usual. Commissioner McGinnis, you got any questions for our applicant or staff?
Thank you. Thank you for moving proactively, since it wasn't many moons ago that you were here before the commission and then city council for getting conditional rezoning approval. So thank you for being proactive and pursuing it. I've already shared with you, the residents that live nearby have shared with you and through me as their council person, their gratitude that you worked to clean up this parcel. The fence looks very sharp, the vegetation cleaned up along the perimeter, so I just want to say thank you for that. So compared to what we had previously to what you've provided anew, because you've highlighted in orange here, note, clear vision requirements shall be provided per city requirements as dimensioned. This area shall be kept clear per city requirements. Does that mean that there will be sort of no vegetation in that corner, or does that mean that the chain link will take a dimensional
So the
curve?
chain link will take a cut on the corner and there will be no vegetation.
Okay.
So you have clear field of vision at the intersection.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the neighborhood and the drivers, thank you for taking that into consideration already. What's the elevation difference from the existing building to the proposed building? Is there any? I know there is some elevation changes on the site. I just can't recall.
There is an elevation change. It's probably 12 feet.
Okay. Are you
Yes.
planning on doing any grade changes with this work, or that the new construction will be essentially a 10 feet or 12 feet below?
Correct. It'll
Sea
essentially be
level.
at the lower level. of the
Okay,
park.
so we're starting at lower level. And is the height of the pitch that you were saying, is that due to having to make the accommodation for the transparency for the glass that otherwise you wouldn't be making
So
that
it's not
pitch?
so much an accommodation for the transparency. The design code also calls for a change in the pitch of the roof.
Ah, and is that also something the planning commission has the option to waive?
So both the transparency and the pitch requirement are under the same section and are considered the frontage requirements, all of which the commission has the ability to waive or adjust.
Okay. Am I showing that the building is 31 feet off, or can you tell me how much space is between the north wall to the existing?
Yep, it's 31 feet and 3 inches. That's
Okay.
what its dimensions.
So,
Yes.
we aren't right on Osmond, so there's a good
And there's a
setback.
fence, and there are existing trees that are there already obstructing the view, and we plan to plant more.
Okay. When we see to the east of the property where it's currently identified as green space, area for future growth, is it fair to assume that should things go well and should life and everything be great, that you would be considering another expansion in the future? Would that require another rezoning or conditional rezoning, or is it already handled?
So by getting this approval, they will have met the conditions of the rezoning. It will then become permanent. And so then if they wanted to add another building, it would just be a site plan.
Okay. So just our ordinance and the constraints of the existing site would be what limits or precludes that. But as it stands for the current site, that would remain green space. Will it be sort of grass?
Yep, it'll just be grass. We'll keep it cut.
Have you found if there's an existing deteriorated but foundation or asphalt or something underneath the grass?
We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. Well, Godspeed whenever you do. I think those primarily answer the questions I had at this point. Thank you.
Now, while we're still on you, would you like to give your, I guess, opinions on options for transparency or waivers?
Yes, generally, I would lean towards more transparency for a commercial structure, for something that is very close to a thoroughfare, very evident and obvious. I'm not as keen on having transparency, and it's a dummy transparency. It's just, it's a front, and then it's going to be blacked out anyway. That seems counterintuitive. The existing, this is a continuation of an existing vehicle storage operation. So to have it be, it has not materially harmed the aesthetics. In fact, it's enhanced the aesthetics of the neighborhood and the surrounding vicinity. So I don't have any concerns about the prospect of option 1 or option 2. And so if we go to 3, that's just where so option 2 is transparency, yes, but pitch, no.
Correct.
And so option 3 is it's going with the letter of transparency and the letter of height pitch. Correct. Okay. And can you help us understand, it's okay, it predates you, but what's the merits of having that in there about pitch in particular? I've got, when I professionally, it's really important, like on a major corridor, thoroughfare, a downtown, we don't want wall. I mean, I think a lot of us probably know on Woodward Avenue, it's about to change, but there's that old music store. It's like on Woodward, it's all brick, like 100% brick across from M1 Concourse. And that's funky. It doesn't look like we've got a commercial corridor. It looks like it's a storage or warehouse district or industrial district, which it doesn't align with it. And we wouldn't want that in our downtown commercial district, our other major thoroughfares. This, I think, is something different. But what's the value or merit of saying we want a certain pitch height?
So I believe it's an aesthetic concern, but I'm going to defer to Mark. He's our design guy.
Yeah, and it's a aesthetic concern, and I think that why we have this in the zoning code for multiple zoning districts, let's apply it in this case. You have single-family homes across the street. Anything you can do to replicate some of those residential elements, a pitch roof is an example of that, helps soften that difference between the land uses there. There are other elements, but that's why we typically want that in the city outside of our downtown.
The height, I don't think, is as concerning because of that elevation change. It's not going to be as garish, where it feels like, oh, there's a industrial cathedral with a high pitch. But I have no concerns about utilizing option 1, or for that matter, option 2. But option 1, I'd be comfortable with that. And I don't think that the neighborhood would be harmed, or the aesthetics of the neighborhood would be harmed as a result of that. And I am basing that in part on the applicant because of the quality and caliber of the existing structure, the quality and caliber of how they are maintaining the property. I might not be as receptive if the applicant did not have a demonstrated ability to deliver on quality, to deliver on a site that adds value to that important cross sections of our town. So it's still on the merits, but I just want to say to you and other future applicants, thank you for fulfilling the letter and spirit of zoning agreements, of past site plans, because that matters.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGinnis. Commissioner Shepard.
I would agree with Mike. I mean, I think we already see what you've done, and what you've done is a beautiful building, but it's like Mike said, if somebody brought us something like this on just a random spot, it might be a different scenario. But what's your guess? What do you think your taxes are going to change, just for education, like public purpose? Like, how much more taxes will you be paying on that property compared to what you are now? 'Cause I don't know if you own that property yet, that piece.
Yeah, we do own that
You do,
parcel,
okay.
yes.
So what are you paying now versus what's your best guess?
Oh, gosh.
You have an
What
idea
happened
yet?
last time? Do you remember?
I mean,
Went from hundreds of dollars to $50,000.
okay. So just so,
On the initial parcel.
Right,
so that's significant,
yes.
right? I mean, I think that's what we're all looking for at some point is how do we clean the roads? How do we take care of garbage in the streets and stuff like that? So thank you for paying an extra $50,000. We all need it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shepard. Commissioner Northcross, any questions or comments?
Well, I do agree that I like what's already there in the existing, and if I understand correctly, item number 1 duplicates that again.
That's correct.
In terms of the landscaping, we have some areas that are overgrown and then some areas that are open. I like in terms of the very dense foliage, I do like that in terms of screening. I understand that we do need to see around the corners and stuff for clear vision. And just looking at the current drawings, I was just wondering what's going to be taken out and what's going to be left in terms of trees as we go along there. Will we be able, I guess the real question is, how much of the building will be seen from this street? As I was driving along, it struck me that the one thing I wish we would have done on the existing building is have a little more vegetation to kind of soften and because it's blending in nice now, but just a little more vegetation. And will we be able to maybe accomplish that with what we have right now? Whereas today, that fence on the new portion comes right up to the sidewalk and there's nothing there and you see right in. This one, we do have the existing vegetation. How much of that can be retained to kind of give a green barrier in addition to the security fence?
So we'll maintain a lot of the trees that we can that aren't interfering with the fence line, right? But if it's trees that have grown into the fence line that need to be removed to install new fencing, we would properly install new trees, appropriately spaced apart to create a screen but not create overgrowth.
Okay, and there's no buffer where those trees will be planted. I mean, there's no berm, excuse me, where those trees will be planted.
No.
Okay. Correct. Okay. Well, hey, I agree with number 1. And so far, what you've done here has just been a real improvement in that area.
Thank you, Commissioner Northcross. Don't really have anything new to add. You brought us a very complete and great application, making our job reviewing it easy. Again, if it's matching the existing building, good track record of quality and keeping up the site. I also have no issues with option 1 or 2, whatever we end up choosing as a body. If there's any final questions or comments, if not, we can.
I have a clarifying question for staff. If we're making a motion for approval of the preliminary site plan, we've got the we've got conditions identified. Would it be in fact 4 conditions instead of 3? Okay. So 4 conditions. Would I add the waiving of the transparency requirement and the waiving of the pitch requirement as conditions 5 and 6, or would I do it as a different language?
Unless the attorney disagrees with me, I think it can be sewn in to your selection of the options. So you can say we select option 1 and waive the transparency and slope requirement to comply with option 1.
That would be acceptable. Yep. You can include all the slope and the transparency, or just go with option 1 as instead of option 3 for item 2 up there.
I would just ask that it be included in the condition that it's waived, because that helps us long-term to ensure the planning commission made this action with this condition.
Okay.
Yep.
And so the way in which we reference it is not pitch but roof slope. What's the?
Either way.
Okay.
Either is fine.
Both mean the same thing.
Okay. I didn't want to say the colloquial versus the legalese. I'm ready to make a stab at the motion. I move to approve of the preliminary site plan for 212 Osmond Street with the first option, 301.1, being approved, waiving the transparency requirements and the roof pitch requirements, and with the following 4 conditions. 1, the site plans will be revised to include all informational items indicated as missing in the staff report. 2, the Planning Commission, well, I guess I'm repeating that. The Planning Commission selects facade option number 1, which waives the required amount of transparency and slope. 3, the site plans will be revised to provide a 96-inch wide access aisle for the barrier-free space. 4, the applicant shall comply with fire department comments regarding hydrant access and other conditions before receiving site plan approval. Did that land it sufficiently?
I thought that was great.
Okay.
The spirit was there, and even though you said it twice, it was there.
Support.
Roll call.
Commissioner Northcross,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner McGinnis,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Shepard,
Yes to approve.
Commissioner Henley.
Yes to approve.
Motion passes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for bearing with us to the end here. Moving on to our final new business item of this evening, which is the election of new officers. So I'll pass it over to staff and let you guys take the lead on that.
Well, it's been just over a year since there was an election, and Mona Parlov was the chair, and Sam was the vice chair. But I would ask our attorney, there are 4 members of Planning Commission tonight. It is not a full body that would be taking a vote tonight. Can they, if they wanted to, they could vote on it tonight if they wanted to, or could they table it till there's more Planning Commission members in attendance?
You could do either. It would require a majority if you were to do it tonight, or you can table it till you have everyone present.
But in the meantime, the vice chair is okay acting as the chair until that said vote, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So Planning Commission, it's really up to you to debate and see what you want to do here.
I'm good with waiting too.
Whatever the pleasure of the body is, I'm not willing to serve. I know that part. Have commissioners that aren't with us indicated their interest in serving as chair or vice chair?
We have not received any interest yet.
Okay.
I do know that Sue is interested in one of the positions.
Okay. So that's a good reason to allow for more commissioners to be there if they can fully express their interest.
I will note that I will be out of town for the May meeting. So that doesn't help. I know. I'm sorry. Everything's difficult.
Do you have interest in either of the positions?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you for your candor.
Neither?
Too much on my plate right now, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, then I would move that we lay on the table until our next meeting, the election of new officers for the Planning Commission.
All right.
Second.
Was that a motion?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I have a question for the attorney. Just because at our May meeting we will not have a chair or vice chair, is there anything that should happen at this meeting to set us up for success at this May meeting?
Especially to help staff work with a liaison to be able to run that meeting. A lot of times we have an agenda meeting ahead of time.
Yes, good idea. It would be recommended at this time then you either appoint a chair or a vice chair to oversee it until that next meeting.
Just to clarify quickly before we get to that, is the May meeting, is that on the 1st or the 7th of May?
7th.
Okay, then yeah, my original comments stand.
Yep.
Commissioner Northcross, are you willing to be acting chair for May?
I am, but I was going to nominate Mr. Shepard, who did an able and wonderful job.
You.
Okay.
No, and that's okay. I'll take it too, though.
Yeah, I would say Mr. Shepard.
All right, we have I guess do we make a motion then to appoint? Correct, Nick?
Correct, yep.
Okay. Someone want to make that motion?
Thank you.
I make the motion that we appoint Mr. Shepard to be the acting chair with our May meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, and I believe with that out of the way, we can go into staff communications.
Sure. So master plan, we are coming up on the last week of public comment. So it's a 63-day window. Go to visionpontiac.com. Please review it. There's a future land use map. We've had a lot of public input as part of this whole process going back to last summer, but it really is determining the vision for the city and how to get there. To commission members, as commission members, you're going to be reviewing this as a body next month, but as individual residents of the city, you can please go in there, review it, and make your individual comments. Just because it's an individual comment doesn't mean that, you know, it may be adopted, but the big thing that McKenna said when it was presented to council is they're gonna take a lot of these comments, reflect it in to make sure it met with the community's vision that we've heard from the city, and help them incorporate that where they can to move forward. So that deadline is April 8th, which is next Tuesday, so by the end of the day, and then we're going to be working with the consultant to get that in final draft and to public hearing on May 7th. I did want to discuss, we do have a few other items for May 7th. I'm hoping not to have a special meeting, but I know our submittal deadline is not hit. But if Planning Commission would want a special meeting or try to avoid it and just have a long meeting, just let us know. Obviously, the presentation for the master plan won't be massively extensive. However, it's as long as you want to make it with the community in mind, you know, and that's coming into the depth of the review you want to have and where some of that community sentiment and support came from, but also the public comment and any deliberations with that. So you can let me know now, you can let me know, you know, after this meeting, but we will be looking to schedule over the next week to week and a half the May meeting and whether we do a special meeting or not, largely depending on the items. We know we will have a couple items, we just don't know the full amount right now. Is that right, Corey? Yeah. I did want to recap City Council, what they've been doing recently regarding planning and Planning Commission items. Last night, 461 West Huron, the conditional rezoning did go through. That is a 4-story, 90-unit parcel that's on Johnson. It will get a new address, but it's across the street from Pontiac General. And then the automobile service ordinance did pass, so that moratorium will expire on next Wednesday, and so we'll be receiving applications for that as well. We do have a Lighthouse conditional rezoning extension on April 15th that we'll be moving forward. There'll be likely 2 resolutions with that. And then we are introducing the PURD ordinance to City Council at the April 15th meeting, excuse me. 43 Columbia is expected to go to City Council. It was prepared, it was on the agenda, but in January and February, but the applicant wasn't there, and so we're trying to finalize some conditions, but we still need their approval before it goes forward. We don't want to take a conditional rezoning agreement that they have not agreed to, and they're comfortable with the conditions that are in there because it is voluntary, so we hope that that comes forward soon. We don't have a date yet. Council President McGinnis, is there anything else that I've missed?
We did adopt a resolution at last night's city council meeting thanking Mona Parla for her 11 years of service. And then I delivered a framed, sealed copy of that resolution to her today. And on behalf of the city of Pontiac, just expressed our appreciation that's a lot of volunteerism, a lot of time, sacrifice to help better plan and move our city forward. So just on behalf of the citizens, thank you to Ms. Parlov for her years of sacrifice for serving on this body. It's worth pointing out, I seem to recall that when we were appointed the Planning Commission, they were a 3-year term. Does that sound right?
Yep.
And so the way the statute reads is that we remain planning commissioners until a replacement is selected.
Or you're reappointed.
Right.
Yeah.
So I will, we stand, by until the mayor makes a decision, should he make a decision in terms of filling vacancy, reappointing, appointing, et cetera.
Yep. I'm in the same boat, and it really is up to the mayor at this point, working with City Council. I did want to mention, I just want to thank Planning Commission for tonight's deliberations on all the cases. We have some tough decisions when it comes to existing sites in the city. I did want to share that Corey and I are going to be working very hard over the next 60 days to evaluate our non-conforming ordinance. We are not thrilled about the way it lays out, and I think that it creates more confusion than it does solutions. We want to do it in a legal manner that suits the city the best it can while giving the property owners its rights. We are going to be evaluating, but this is going to be a little bit of a longer process for us to move forward. I just wanted to let you know that this is coming forward. You know, it might not be something that's before this committee for maybe 3 months. We can move forward with this separate than a zoning ordinance. This is really something that we're going to be really evaluating alternatives, particularly what other jurisdictions do, but we also want to do an evaluation of if this were to be adopted by City Council and made into the zoning code, what does that do to these existing buildings? This is some tough conversations, but I just wanted to let you know that, you know, we're starting to have that, you know, and we want to make it clear for everyone in the city about, you know, how these operate, and we think that there's some ways to clean this up a little bit. But the solution is not a simple solution, so we're going to get that started. Corey, is there any other major projects before this board to share upcoming applications big applications that we know about?
I don't have anything additional to add.
Okay, thank you. So I believe that's all the staff report tonight. And I want to thank Paul Harang. I think this was his first time to Planning Commission presenting, so I'm very excited for him. And we thank Clarence. I think this is your second Planning Commission meeting, but you're soaking it all in, and we cannot wait for him to start presenting soon too.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Do any of my fellow commissioners have some announcements?
Well, this is just a comment and a request. Today, with our performance standards that are in Section 4, many of the decisions on whether or not an applicant meets or does not meet the performance standard is done solely by the planning department. And I guess my request is that just as we would with lighting, or like we would just as we do currently with water runoff, that we will require the applicant to demonstrate that they meet all of those performance requirements, as opposed to burdening our planning department. I think it's going to be really important as, one, the density of land use increases, and secondly, we're going to look at some newer, maybe non-traditional type uses coming into the city. And I think I would like for us to have greater assurance that we've done, full due diligence. And one way of doing that is by having the applicant themselves, who knows what they're going to be doing, to step forward and say, hey, for these reasons, we meet your performance requirements that are in your ordinance. I think most notable is the issue today with M1 and noise. They met everything else. I feel they've done a great job of improving the area, but they are really hurting the residents with noise. And I don't know if I don't think they went through, or anyone was really prepared to go through and really look at the issues that would come up from noise and how they are currently violating, in my opinion, the noise ordinance. So that's, put the onus on the applicant to show compliance.
Thank you, Chris. Any other comments or announcements? All right, then I think we can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Good, thank you.
Oh.